The last Legendary Hero Summoning Event for 2018 is here. As usual, this banner features a starting 8% 5-star focus rate and a permanent 0% non-focus 5-star rate. This means that if you do get a 5-star unit, it's guaranteed to be one of these 12 heroes on this banner. If you're a newer player, then these banners are generally a good time to try and get any new 5-star units. If you want one specific unit, however, it's not going to be as easy since there are 3 units per color. This video will help you understand what units and skills each color has, and hopefully that helps you decide on if a specific color is worth summoning or whether or not you should try the summon at all. Before that, let's talk about our newest legendary hero. Our new hero is Legendary Azura, who is back to her blue unit self. Legendary Azura is a flying blue mage dancer, which is definitely a pretty unique unit type. You can never have enough dancers, and flying dancers are extra special thanks to their ability to fly over any terrain to reach their allies. Azura is a water legendary hero and her stat boost is +4 resistance. At the time I'm making this video, I do not have her full stat line, but I believe all of Azura's ults generally have good attack and speed, decent resistance, and low HP and defense, so I don't see this Azura straying too far from that pattern. As a dancer, Azura's main job is to support the team, and she comes with some very good tools to do just that. It shouldn't matter too much what nature you end up getting for her, which is a good thing if you just want to get one copy of her. Now before we discuss Azura's new skills, let's discuss her old ones first. Aerobatics is a very rare skill, only previously found on the newish Flying Nino, who just so happens to be on this banner as well. Aerobatics lets Azura move to any adjacent space next to any infantry, armored, or cavalry allies within 2 spaces. This is a pure mobility skill and is useful for getting Azura out of trouble or extending her range to dance another teammate. If you want the version that works with flying allies, you will need to get Flyer formation, which is luckily a sacred seal. As for Atk Tactic, Azura can grant a nice +6 attack buff to her teammates, assuming you are running a mixed team. Aerobatics is a great skill for mixed teams as well, but if you wish to place Azura in a primarily Fire Emblem team, you will need to swap out both of these skills out for suitable replacements. Now for Legendary Azura's unique weapon, she comes with the Prayer Wheel, which is a 14 might tome that grants a flat +3 speed. Prayer Wheel is a support weapon that works when Azura dances or sings an allied target. When this happens, that ally gets a field buff to all of their stats equal to the highest buff on them beforehand. For example, an ally that has a +6 defense field buff, who then gets danced by Legendary Azura with Prayer Wheel, will then receive +6 buffs to all stats afterwards. This applies to any stat buff, and Prayer Wheel is taken into account the highest one possible. This is why Azura comes with Atk Tactic. Ideally, she buffs the team with +6 attack, then once she dances one of them, one of her allies will get +6 to all stats. This has a lot of potential to be good. Azura will be a crazy ally for Blade Tome mages, and she can make use of buffs coming from other units as well. She will be a very strong unit for teams that buff up one unit and let them tank all the damage. One question that is raised currently is, how does Prayer Wheel work with the dancer only buffing skills? My personal guess is that Prayer Wheel is checking what buffs are on a unit before they get danced, so it wouldn't take into account the buffs that skills like Earth Dance or Blaze Dance apply after the matter. We'll have to see this tested to know the true answer. So Prayer Wheel already sounds pretty nuts, but Legendary Azura also has a new dancer mechanic. Grey Waves fundamentally works the same as Sing or Dance. Use it on an ally to give them another turn. Well, if that ally is an infantry or flying unit, then they also get +1 extra movement space. This means that infantry and flying units danced by Azura will now have 3 movement. This makes Legendary Azura even more unpredictable because you would have to account for potentially extending the range of her teammates. Obviously, this is very scary when used on range units, since we already know that ranged cavalry is very tough to defend against. It's also possible that this movement buff stays till the end of the turn, which means Gale Force users could move 3 spaces twice. Possibly. I would say that if you're a diehard Fire Emblem fan, then Legendary Azura is a must-have. Flyers are really strong due to their ability to fly over terrain like forest or mountains. Giving them 3 movement is crazy strong, and it will be amazing for Blade Tome flying mages, especially considering what Prayer Wheel can do. Now, before we start freaking out about 3 movement infantry and flying units, we already saw that the beast units coming soon will have the same 3 movement when transformed. This is something that is just going to be a thing eventually. I do think Legendary Azura will be a very strong support unit, and you are going to see her in Aether raids a ton, probably to the dismay of many offense teams. You're also going to see her in the arena too, because Legendary Azura also comes with blue dual flying. The dual A skills are basically skills to help increase arena scoring, and this one is probably best used by Legendary Azura and Bright Onanian, since the two of them are ranged dancers, which makes their base stat totals very low. If you don't care about the plus 5 HP, then the dual skills are rather worthless outside of the arena. It's very much a skill only for those people who want to squeeze the most points out of their teams, and allows them to use a dancer too. Overall, I would have to say that Legendary Azura is looking like a pretty good unit. A dancer who can potentially buff all stats on an ally and extend the range of infantry or flying units sounds like a lot of fun. If you play a lot of Aether raids, I'm gonna guess Legendary Azura will become a decently common sight. For the rest of this video, we'll be talking about the 11 other heroes on this banner. In the top left, our red units are Legendary Marth, Summer Young Tiki, and Flora. Top right, our blue units are Legendary Azura, Fjorm, and Summer Camilla. Bottom left, our green units are Legendary Hector, Flying Nino, and Hell Bindi. Last, we have Air, who is a mythic hero, but will be replacing Fimo Grima, finally. Joining her will be Summer Takumi and Brave Veronica, a pretty strong showing for all the colors this time. Kicking things off with red, we have Legendary Marth. As a reminder, any red skills are uninheritable, and we are looking for yellow or purple skills, with yellow being skills that I think are pretty hard to come by. Legendary Marth is an infantry sword unit whose Exalted Falchion doubles any buffs on him during combat. He would love working with Legendary Azura. His unique special called Fire Emblem gives him extra damage based off his speed stat, and also buffs his whole team with +4 to all stats during the turn Fire Emblem activates. Marth's Binding Shield also makes him a very formidable dragon counter. If you don't want Marth, you can nab Attack and Speed Bond 3, which is great, or Infantry Flash, which honestly I forgot existed, but it's a good skill, granting infantry allies the Flashing Blade skill. If you need dragon counters, Legendary Marth is a great pickup. Speaking of dragons, we have Summer Young Tiki, who is a monster. She is a flying red dragon who is super fast with 37 base speed. Her Summer's Breath weapon grants steady breath, which is really strong and makes this Tiki a formidable tank. This Tiki is very strong and will be a great addition to any team. If you don't want her, then the only really good skill she has to offer is Attack and Defense Bond. Dragon Valor is rare, but only grants double SP to dragon allies and is not a combat oriented skill. Summer Young Tiki is a very good unit for either Dragon Emblem teams or Fire Emblem teams as well. Our last red unit is Flora, who is an infantry red dagger unit. She is currently our only red dagger unit, so she is pretty unique already. You'll notice she is very slow and has very little defense, but has an incredible 38 base resistance and a solid attack stat. Flora's Hoarfrost Knife is a slaying dagger, which is nice. It also gives Flora +20 defense if she attacks into a melee unit, and is to help her fight distant counter users as well as protect her from Dragon's adaptive damage. If they have distant counter, then Flora also gets a guaranteed follow-up. She is a very strange unit. She can attack into distant counter units as well as tank mages very well thanks to quick riposte. She offers the decent attack and res solo skill, which grants +6 attack and res as long as Flora is not adjacent to any ally. Defense ploy is another worthy skill if you really need it. I wouldn't say Flora is a must have, but she is definitely unique. For blue units, we have of course Legendary Azura. In terms of skill inheritance, she does offer 2 really rare skills. Blue dual flying is new, so if you want it, you need to get Azura anyway. Aerobatics is very rare, although its usage is going to vary a lot and comes down to the units it's on and your playstyle. As for Atk Tactic, you can actually find it in the 4-star pool on Legault, but regardless, it's still a great skill. I wouldn't say Legendary Azura is super amazing for skill inheritance, but as a unit, she is extremely valuable. Fjorm, on the other hand, offers some really good skills. She is a free unit everyone can get through the stories, so I'm not going to talk about her too much. Later is a distant counter weapon, and Ice Mirror lets Fjorm take less damage and even return some back to her attacker. She is a great defensive unit. Her A skill, Attack and Defense Bond, provides extra stats by being next to an ally, and Shield Pulse is a very good defensive skill and pretty much is one of the only skills to complement the defensive specials. It's a really valuable skill for those looking to try out some unique builds. As for Drive Attack, it's a solid combat buffing skill that any unit can use. As always, it's always nice to see Fjorm, whether you want merges or just want her good skills. Last is Summer Camilla, who is one of the few blue mage flyers. She has pretty good offensive stats with 33 attack and 36 speed, making her the best Blade Tome user for this tiny group. As we mentioned, Legendary Azura is an amazing asset for Blade Tome mages, and having a flying 3 movement Blade Tome coming at you will be hard to stop. Camilla's Juicy Wave is actually a tome that has Desperation built in, which can lead to some interesting setups, plus it's inheritable. She has Death Blow 3, which is great, and she has Flyer Formation. It's a Sacred Seal, so if you don't want it in the Beast slot, then it's easily available to any flyer. As for Honed Flyers, well, that is still a pretty hard to get buff, and it's crucial to most Fire Emblem teams since they are generally very offensive in nature. Summer Camilla is actually pretty good as a unit, and in terms of inheriting skills, if you're looking to get Legendary Azura, I think this is a pretty decent time to try. 3 good units, and all of them have pretty good set of skills if you get extra copies. I would have to say that the green group is pretty much always worth summoning for anytime Hector is around. Legendary Hector is quite the defensive beast with his thunder armor as protecting him from follow-ups, and he has distant counter and vengeful fighter to retaliate. He has a ton of attack to hit hard and is a solid axe armor unit. His Osteus Pulse reduces cooldowns by -1 for the whole team on turn 1 as long as you're running a mixed team, and I think it's a really strong unique skill. Besides that, it's a no-brainer to want any Hector with distant counter. If you are making army units, then Vengeful Fighter is another strong skill. You really can't go wrong getting this guy. Now for Flying Nino, she is a flying green mage who is blazing fast and still has a decent amount of attack. Giga Excalibur gives her even more speed and deals extra damage if Nino outspeeds her opponent. While a cool weapon, this Nino can work in very much the same way as her normal version with a blade tome in hand. Nino's other skills includes aerobatics, which is again probably pretty niche depending on if you like flying units. So Sparrow is a standard offensive A skill granting extra attack and speed on initiations. Speed Smoke is a really strong debuff because I think -7 speed is very useful. This and Swift Sparrow are Nino's 2 best offerings if you don't want her for whatever reasons. Our third green unit is Hellbindi, who is an infantry axe unit. He is very slow, but his other stats are pretty high to balance it out. His weapon by Leicester has an odd wave effect, granting +4 to all stats to adjacent allies and Hellbindi himself on odd numbered turns. This is pretty cool and allows Hellbindi to be a decent team buffer. Green dual infantry is for any arena players who want that boost in score, but otherwise it's not super useful. Guard 3 is good, especially since Hellbindi is likely to get hit a ton and he doesn't want to just let the opponent charge their special. Infantry Pulse is a skill that grants -1 cooldown at the start of the fight for any infantry allies with less HP than the user. A nice skill that really shines if you build around it, plus it can stack. Overall, green is pretty great, especially since distant counter is in play. 3 fun units and lots of amazing skills on offer as well. Our colorless group this time is pretty darn good. First off, we have Air, who is replacing Female Grima this time. Just a reminder that it was stated that after this month we will be swapping between legendary heroes and mythic heroes for these monthly banners. In January of the new year, expect to see a new mythic hero. As such, I also believe that Female Grima and Air will now be swapping out each month until another colorless legendary or mythic hero appears. Now, since Air is our second free store unit, I won't discuss her too much. I have a whole video about Air as a unit if you are very new to the game. I will say that getting more copies of Air will be beneficial if you are into maximizing for Aether Raid points. Mythic hero merges do matter there. Besides using her for merges, Air also has the new Mystic Boost B skill. It nullifies adaptive damage and Wrathful Staff effects, plus it restores 6 HP after combat, which is really nice. If you want Mystic Boost for other units, now is your second chance to get more of it. Summer Takumi is a flying archer, which is a very unique unit type. He has a great 35 attack and 35 speed, and his fishy bow has built-in desperation. It's inheritable too. Besides that, Takumi has the ever popular Fury 3, and Odd Res Wave is a nice buffing tool. While there isn't too much to say about this Takumi, he's really just a solid unit, good damage output, and is a very rare unit type. You can set him up with Fire Sweep or Brave Bows as well, and he'll be a great asset to any team. Our final unit is Brave Veronica, who has made quite the name for herself in the later half of this year. I'd probably have to place her in the same category as the Reinhardt and Brave Lynn for being a very obnoxious and very powerful ranged cavalry unit. While Brave Lynn stops distant counter users, Veronica stops everyone from counterattacking her thanks to her unique staff. Said staff also debuffs enemies and buffs Veronica and her allies, which makes dealing with her very difficult sometimes. She also carries Wrathful Staff, which lets her deal full damage as a healer. Brave Veronica has Wind Fire Bomb Plus as her special, which buffs all of her allies with +6 attack and speed when it activates, and that's a very nice ability for any healer. Close Guard gives allies extra protection from melee enemies, and Winter Ephraim also has the skill if you're looking for it specifically. If you've been playing this game since her release, I assume you are very aware of Veronica's powers, one of the most common Aether Raid threats, and doesn't have a real counter thanks to the Dazzling Staff effect. If you don't have Brave Veronica, now might be a pretty good time to remedy that situation. While I know this legendary banner is very tempting, I want to remind everyone that this banner will overlap with the current winter banner and the coming New Year's banner. If you don't have many orbs, then I would advise waiting till the new year to see if any of those units pique your interest. Also, it's been confirmed that January's new hero banner will be from Radiant Dawn, and it's probably the debut of Beast units. The calendar only lists one new hero banner, and that lasts pretty much the rest of the month, so I have to assume the new banner on the 10th will be the one with Tabarn, Nyla, and hopefully more. Whatever you decide to do, good luck on your summons. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.